Hello everyone, welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna, your filthy casual show for all the filthy casual takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports. I'm your host, DylanLasagna, and welcome to our filthy casual week 2 recap of the 2022 NFL season. It feels like it's going by so quick, only just a week ago, it was week 1, and then just a couple weeks ago, it was the preseason. But here we are. It's the second week of the 2022 NFL season in the books. Another week of football to talk about. And man, this week felt wild. It was much better than last week. And yeah, I'm kind of excited to talk about it, to review it with you all. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So, of course, we had the first ever Thursday night game, not on network television anymore. No, you gotta pay up $15 on Amazon Prime. Yeah, it's not free anymore. And you gotta have a good internet connection, as the Kansas City Chiefs beat the LA Chargers as they clippered up once again, 27-24. But Justin Herbert, man, he put up a fight. He put up a real good fight, and hopefully he's okay after that. So we get to the Sunday slate of games. The Miami Dolphins beat the Baltimore Ravens 42-38, despite being down 21 points. They had to come back from a big-ass comeback to a Tagovailoa, and that big breakout offense stormed back to tie the game against Lamar Jackson, and they sealed the game with 19 seconds left to go. 4 touchdowns is what it took to get back in that game. Miami Dolphins, they might be onto something. Speaking of comebacks, the New York Jets beat the Cleveland Browns 31-30, and the skid marks, man, how do they blow this one? So they get a big day from Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, that tandem, but the Jets, they got a throwback performance from Joe Flacco and a strong showing from their rookie receiver, Garrett Wilson, and they got back in that game rapidly with just 2 minutes left to go, and yeah, they beat the Browns. The Detroit Lions had a fun day themselves from Amon-Ra St. Brown, their second-year receiver, and Jared Goff. He looks kind of good too. And that defense, led by their rookie Aiden Hutchinson, their second overall pick, he's starting to come on strong against Carson Wentz. Yes, it's the second meeting between Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, who didn't look great. And that Commanders defense just looked awful. But the Lions had to hold off the commanding Washington team. And they beat the Washington Commanders 36-27. And if you're the Indianapolis Colts, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Whether it was Carson Wentz last year or it's Matt Ryan this past Sunday. But even with Matt Ryan in Jacksonville, in the land of all elite wrestling, somehow the result was even worse than last year, because they could not score against the all elite Jacksonville Jaguars, as they blanked the Indianapolis Colts 24-0. The Tampa Bay Bucks finally got a regular season win with Tom Brady against the New Orleans Saints, as the theme for that game was defense, quarterback struggles, and angry Tom Brady, and a big fight between Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore that dominated much of the game. What also dominated much of the game was 2 famous Jameis Winston interceptions and a pick 6 that sealed the Saints' fate. And yeah, finally get that monkey off Brady's back. The Bucks beat the Saints 20-10, and now they have sole possession of the NFC South. The New York Giants relied on Graham Gano's big leg as he kicked 4 clutch field goals to beat the Carolina Panthers 19-16. And Baker Mayfield, man, I guess leaving the Cleveland Browns for Carolina didn't really do you much. The New England Patriots beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 17-14. It was a struggle to watch to see both offenses. Mac Jones didn't do well, but neither did Mitch Trubisky. But the Patriots offense just did enough to beat the Steelers 17-14. And I think it's time for the Steelers to seriously consider starting their rookie Kenny Pickett. Going to the late afternoon games, my San Francisco 49ers beat the Seattle Seahawks 27-7, but it came at a price. As you will see in my vlog, it was cringe-inducing to see Trey Lance go down to a season-ending fractured ankle, and now they got to turn back to Jimmy G. How sad. How sad. Now, the LA Rams almost pulled in Atlanta Falcons. And they almost blew a it became a 31-10 lead. It was an almost Super Bowl 51 role reversal as the Atlanta Falcons stormed back to almost come back and beat the LA Rams, but it was not to be as Jalen Ramsey put them to sleep with a basketball catch interception at the goal line as the Rams held off the Falcons 31-28. I would worry about the Cincinnati Bengals because they had allowed a 6-sack performance against the Cooper Rush Dallas Cowboys as they beat the Cincinnati Bengals 20-17, despite the Bengals getting back in that game. For the Denver Broncos, they beat the Houston Texans 16-9, but it was another sluggish performance for them. Despite getting Russell Wilson all that money and giving away all those picks to Seattle. Yikes. Big yikes. For the Arizona Cardinals, though, they looked lost on both sides of the ball to start the first half against the Las Vegas Raiders this past Sunday, but that all changed in the second half. Kyler Murray, at least for this week, he showed you why. You got to pay him the big bucks. He put his opposition on skates twice in the end zone. The Cardinals came back to force overtime and capped off a grueling comeback on a Byron Murphy scoop and score fumble touchdown that he almost threw away like Deshaun Jackson did many years ago. And the Cardinals came back to beat the Raiders 29-23 in overtime. What a crazy game that was. And the Sunday Night Football game to close out the Sunday slate, the Packers used their crazy defense and a slightly bounce back performance from Aaron Rodgers and the offense to defeat the Chicago Bears 27-10 as they showed why week one was the true, not the true epitome of what was to come for this past Sunday's performance of Bears football, pal. Then we got a Monday night doubleheader that turned out to be a Monday night disaster for pretty much all of the football world. But if you're a fan of the winning teams, you seem fine with it. For the Buffalo Bills, they turned a 7-7 stalemate into a primetime ass whooping on the Tennessee Titans. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, they connected for 3 touchdowns, and that powerhouse defense made life for Ryan Tannehill a living hell, and even got a pick 6 to close out the game as they beat them 41-7. Wow, that was crazy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Monday night doubleheader in Philadelphia, Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings choked again under the bright lights on Monday night. But for the Eagles' Jalen Hurts, he shined with his dynamic offense of Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, even Quez Watkins got involved in this game. That was in the first half. And in the second half, the defense, led by Darius Slay, they stepped up big with some good second half plays as the Eagles beat the Vikings 24-7. Now, that was your scores for week 2 of the NFL season. Now for my winners and losers of this second week of the season. Now, my winners first. The Miami Dolphins. We don't know anything yet about Tua and if he's their long-term starter for the Dolphins, but that was his best game yet as a Miami Dolphin, and that's the signature game like he needed. He most definitely needed. He didn't particularly have a great first half. He committed 2 turnovers, I believe, but when he turned it on when this team was down 21 points in the fourth quarter, he did not give up. He showed some resilience. He got them back into the game, tied it up, and with 19 seconds left to go, he found his guy. It was Jalen Waddle. And he also found 2 touchdowns for Tyreek Hill. That was absolute resilience by the Miami Dolphins team. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen when they face the Bills, who absolutely ran roughshod on the Titans on Monday night. But this is going to be a big test for the Dolphins, who are just coming off their own big performance against the Ravens on Sunday. But either way, they are big winners this past week. The Detroit Lions, I mean, they're not like major competitors yet, but this was a good performance from them. To see them do well, especially like on both sides of the ball. You're seeing good production from Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift. Hell, even Jared Goff did pretty solid in this game, like more than solid in this game against the Commanders, compared to his counterpart that got drafted after him, Carson Wentz. He did a pretty good job managing this game, getting the ball out to his guys and letting them take care of the rest. So the Lions, they may not be competing for a playoff spot, maybe they will, and make one of those wild card spots. But either way, like, we shouldn't sleep on those Detroit Lions in this coming season. But their big test comes in the Minnesota Vikings next week, so we'll see which Lions show up. And of course, their opponent last week, the Philadelphia Eagles, is my last winner for this week. That was a good performance from Jalen Hurts. I mean, of course, he was good last week against those same Lions, but in a bright lights on Monday night against another team that did well, and it's another good defense, at least that we thought it was. This was a game that he absolutely needed to have. He also needed to show that 1 week where him and A.J. Brown was no fluke, and he absolutely nailed it. He also got Devontae Smith back in the game, involved, and that was absolutely what was needed. And that defense bounced back as well from allowing the Detroit Lions to come back in that game. So good job all around from Nick Sirianni from putting together a good game plan for them, as well as his coaching staff. Now, as for the losers for this week, the Indianapolis Colts, it looks like this move to go get Matt Ryan is starting to backfire, because it looks like he's looking like rattled, hasty, I don't know. He looks kind of out of sorts when he's trying to throw the ball. That whole offense is out of whack, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're probably missing people on the offensive line. I do know that they were missing Michael Pittman Jr. in that game, but just because they were missing one receiver doesn't mean it should be affecting that whole offense. Either way, they looked unprepared on Sunday against Jacksonville, like they were last year when they were with Carson Wentz. So, what was the deal? What was the deal in allowing Trevor Lawrence to go off like that on Sunday? It was just bad. It was just really bad and embarrassing for the Colts. And it was an even worse result from that season finale last year. Big yikes. And speaking of the AFC South, the Tennessee Titans. It's one thing to get blown out. It's one thing if Malik Willis, their backup quarterback, the rookie that they're developing, if he was the one that was involved in the blowout, if he been starting in that blowout. But Ryan Tannehill absolutely got nothing going in that game. He couldn't get Derrick Henry going. His entire offense, Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, they were not able to get anything going against a strong Bills defense. They were getting outclassed. And this is the top seed from last year. And they have to live with this. They absolutely have to live with this. And they got embarrassed. They absolutely got embarrassed in prime time. Now, should they go out and start Malik Willis? I don't know. Maybe if Ryan Tannehill continues to suck in these next couple of weeks. But this was just a flat out embarrassing performance for them, no matter who the opponent was. And then you look at the Cincinnati Bengals. You invested so much in this offensive line for Joe Burrow, and yet he's still getting sacked. He's still getting sacked at such an alarming rate. 6 sacks this game, and I think it was like 7 sacks in the opener against the Steelers. That's already an alarming rate. They're getting so close. They're already building up to their last year's total. It is so alarming. It is so alarming to see their investment from the offseason is not paying off. Now I can understand that these things take time. Perhaps their offensive line didn't play at all in the preseason. Maybe that's possible, but they have to figure it out quick. They're 0-2, while the Steelers have a prime opportunity on Thursday night when they face Cleveland, the skid marks, to take a big division lead. And while that may not mean much, long down the stretch, long term, if once they face Pittsburgh, actually they did face Pittsburgh. Who knows? Either way, this team is currently in the crisis of a Super Bowl hangover, and there's no way about it. So those are my winners and losers of week 2. Now let's get into the hurry up game. What is the hurry up game? I talk about our final subject of week 2 in a kind of a final fourth quarter 2 minute lockdown mode. So like I did with week 1, this week's topic for week 2 is the new head coaches and how they're doing in this first 2 weeks. So when you look at all these new head coaches in these first 2 weeks, there's some things that I like and how they're doing, and other coaches not so much. The ones that stand out most to me are Mike McDaniel of the Miami Dolphins and Nathaniel Hackett of the Denver Broncos. While Mike McDaniel is not perfect per se, it seems like he knows what he's doing. He knows how to reach out to his players. He seems like a people's person. I know in press conferences he seems all chill. He looks like he's doing the thing. The weed. No, I'm just kidding. But it seems like he's a very people's person. He's very people oriented, and the way that he rallied his team back, in that Baltimore game was very resounding. And sure, there's gonna be some times where he needs to rally his troops again. This was a good starting point for Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins. As for a bad example so far is Nathaniel Hackett of the Denver Broncos. It was kind of weird to see these first 2 weeks. You get this Super Bowl winning quarterback in Russell Wilson, and the whole offense, the whole team looks so jumbled, so out of whack. Now, the first week seems understandable because it's your first week, you're trying to figure out what to do. But then the second week, you're struggling against another bad team in the Houston Texans, and you're managing the clock so bad that you have to call 2 timeouts in the fourth. I think it was in the fourth quarter, and then you ran out of timeouts. Man, what are you doing? And then you also see Russell Wilson botch a snap, or he trips on one of the plays in the fourth quarter, and he gets sacked. And I think they only scored 1 touchdown in that game. They were down 3 points. 3 points by? oof. Like, big oof for Seattle. Not Seattle, Denver. Like, they have to figure things out quick. They have to change some things. I don't know what those things are. But for Seattle, they got to figure it out quick and soon. Because for a team that people predicted to at least make the playoffs, not win the division just yet, they're kind of crumbling these first 2 weeks. And their week 3 opponent is, sure, their quarterback is not great, but they're no pushover. There's still no pushover in the 49ers. Like, their defense is rough, very rough. So they better get it together. So that was the hurry up game. It might have been over, like, not so hurry up, but you get the point. So that was my recap for NFL Week 2, 2022. Let me know what you guys thought. And if you got your picks right, let me know. I probably didn't. But did your team win? Did your team lose? How did you guys see your players? What stood out to you the most this past week? Let me know in the comments below. But anyway, this is DylanLasagna of Very Cold Lasagna signing out for another weekly recap of the 2022 NFL season. And join me real soon for week 3 of the 2022 NFL season. And we're going to be doing our picks this coming weekend. And yeah, until next time, peace out.